Hello, this is a video on how to play the card game Basra. Basra is a somewhat popular fishing card game played throughout the Middle East. It's very popular in Lebanon, Egypt, and Turkey. The objective of the game is to score points by collecting cards from the floor. At the end of each hand, points are awarded to each player based on the cards collected. Hands are played with the players alternating dealing until at least one player has accumulated enough points to win the game. Then the player with the most points is declared the winner. In the event of a tie, additional tiebreaker hands are played until one player emerges victorious. Basra is played using a standard deck of 52 cards. Depending on the game mode selected, and so there are a different variety of variations. We're just playing with what I like to call the most common variation. And so play starts with the dealer dealing six cards to each player. During the first deal of each hand, the dealer places 4 cards in the middle of the floor. And so there were 4 cards placed here, but something just happened, and so we'll talk about what happened there. And so starting with the receiver, players take turns playing 1 card at a time, attempting to collect cards from the floor by matching them with the card played. And so notice how my opponent here only has 5 cards. That is because he played a matching card to the card on the floor, allowing him to collect it. And so we take turns playing 1 card at a time, collecting cards from the full floor by matching them with the card played. Cards are matched by either playing cards and/or combining multiple cards with the card played. If the player is able to collect cards from the floor, they also collect the card played. If they are unable to collect any cards, the card played remains on the floor. At the end of each hand, any cards remaining on the floor are awarded to the last player to collect cards from the floor. And so you must at least play 1 card onto the floor. And so you can collect a card by pairing. And so a player may collect any card from the floor that is of the same denomination as the card played. And so a 5 card can collect any other 5 cards, or a king card can collect any other king cards. Combining, a player can collect any cards from the floor that numerically add up to the value of the card played. In this case, the ace card has a numerical value of 1, while the king, queen, and jack cards do not have numerical values and cannot be included in any combination matches. And so a 5 card collects both a 2 and a 3 card, and an 8 card can collect both a 7 and an ace card. King, queen, and jack cards cannot be used to collect a combination and cannot be included. So you cannot play a jack and a queen to collect multiple cards, and you cannot do a combination or combining via sum with a jack, a queen, or a king, nor can you collect from the board through combination a jack, a queen, or a king, because they have no numerical value, and combination depends on numerical value. Multiple combinations can also occur. So an 8 card can collect a 5 card and a 3 card, and a 2 card and a 6 card. The jack is a special card in Basra, as it can collect all the cards from the floor. If a jack is played onto an empty floor, it remains in play until one of the players is able to collect it by playing another jack. So a jack is a special card, as it can collect all the cards from the floor. What we'll do here is we'll look at this. We'll say we have a 3 and a 5, as well as a 10. I have nothing that can really collect that, so what I'll do is I'll play my jack. Collected all the cards from the floor there. Remember, you must play a card, and so if there are no cards on the floor, then you must play a card, right? And so that's I guess what you should do. And so you continue playing like that, and so that's what we'll continue to do here. You want to maximize collecting jacks, aces, 2s of clubs, and 10 of diamonds. They're special cards in Basra because they're the only cards for which you can score points for. So if you collect a jack, you can score 1 point for each jack. If you collect an ace, 1 point. If you collect jacks, the player with the most jacks scores 1 point. If you collect aces, the player with the most aces scores 1 point. The player with a 2 of clubs scores 2 points, and the player with a 10 of diamonds scores 3 points. A Basra occurs when a player succeeds in clearing the floor without playing a jack. When a player collects the Basra card is placed face up, sticking out of the pile of the player's collected cards. So if you can clear the floor without playing a jack, it's called a Basra. At the end of each hand, the player with the most cards is awarded additional points. If both players have an equal amount of cards, no additional points are awarded for that hand. And so that's basically how to play Basra. We'll go through it again, and I'll talk about what I'm doing as I am doing it. And so 6 cards to each player once again, right? And hands are played until at least one player has accumulated enough points to win the game. The number of points for which you win the game is totally up to you. That is your discretion. I recommend at least 10 or more. Some longer games, people pick 30 points as their target. And so 6 cards to each player. So let us show, well, we can't do pairing or combining here, right? The objective is to fish and grab cards by either pairing them with the same rank or by pairing sums. You can pair sums of cards. So you could either pair a direct card, right? A 3 and a 3, or you could pair a sum and a card. So a 3 could grab a 2 and an ace. Do note that jacks, queens, and kings cannot be included in combinations where you have to add the value of a sum. So those are the 2 ways you can collect cards. So 6 cards, you can collect cards by pairing and by combining. So far, that's pretty simple. And so the jack clears. So 6 cards, you can collect cards by pairing, collect cards by combining. The jack can collect all the cards from the floor. Jacks, the player with the most jacks scores 1 point. The player with the most aces scores 1 point. The player with the 2 of clubs scores 2 points, and the player with the 10 of diamonds scores 3 points. Key strategy is to obviously go for these cards. I would save a jack for the 10 of diamonds or the 2 of clubs because just having that card alone allows you to score a lot of points. And so that's pretty much it. 6 cards, pairing, combining, jacks clear the floor. Points are jacks. Player with the most jacks is 1. Player with the most aces is 1. Player with the 2 of clubs scores 2 points. The player with the 10 of diamonds scores 3 points. The player with the most cards scores additional points. A Basra occurs when a player succeeds in clearing the floor without playing a jack. And so that's just a little bit of fun. And so let us play. So we cannot, remember, you must always play a card. We cannot actually play a card here, and so what we'll do is we cannot actually, you must play a card regardless of whether or not you can make a pair or a combination, right? You must play a card. And so that's just what you have to do. You must play at least one card every turn. What I'll do is I'll play my 7, I'll grab my 4 and my 3. She played the ace. They cleared the floor. My opponent cleared the floor without playing a jack, right? Notice how the floor is empty. That is called a Basra. Cleared the floor once again. That's another Basra. Notice how the cards are sticking out. If you get a Basra, the Basra card is placed face up, sticking out of the pile of the player's collected cards. Basra occurs when a player succeeds in clearing the pile, clearing the floor without playing a jack. So, we have that king. So, after each player gets rid of their cards, you simply deal more cards until you are obviously out of all the cards. Once you're out of all the cards, that is a singular round. So, what we can do is there's a 10 there. We can't really collect that. And so we'll play our 7 there. The jack cleared the floor there. So quite beneficial. What we'll do here is we'll play a 3. Five. The 8 can take the 3 and the 5. So that's a Basra for me because I cleared the floor without playing a jack. Now I'm going to play my 6 of diamonds. That's another 6 of diamonds. I'll play my 9 of spades. 4. So no player. So the cards remain on the floor, right? At the end of each hand, the player who won the any cards remaining on the floor are awarded to the last player to collect cards from the floor. In this case, both players were sort of putting cards on the floor, and there was no player who was like the last player who collected cards. And so, essentially, if there are cards remaining on the floor, the last player who collected cards collects all of those cards. But if both players are going back and forth placing cards, then there is no real last player who collected cards, right? And so, essentially, it's just recency. Yeah, just decide if you're playing in real life, just make sure you can decide who was the last player to collect cards. That player is the one who collects all the cards from the floor. And so what we'll do here now is we'll sort of continue to play through the game. So I will play an 8 to grab that 8. Jack was played to clear the floor there. That's fine. What we'll do is we'll play A2. This will allow me to match that with A2. Collecting it. I will then play an ace, as well as, well, okay, so he played a jack there, that's fine. Okay, so no player was really the last one to collect cards there, and so no player ends up getting those last cards. Now what we have here is, we are going to continue playing here. Now, in this scenario, what we will do is we will play, well, we have a 6 and a 5. I will play my 6, grabbing that 6. As you can see, this continues. So this is quite a different card game from many of the other card games. I find that certain players love fishing card games because they're just much funner. So the player who took the cards was the player who was the last one to collect cards. Let's talk about the scoring, right? So for each, okay, so there are a bunch of variations, and I was mistaken in that I believed that the player scores 1 point if they have the most aces, but it's 1 point for each ace, 1 point for each jack, 2 points for the 2 of clubs, 2 points, 3 points for the 10 of diamonds, and 1 point for each Basra. You also score 3 points if you have the majority number of cards. So that is the scoring system for Basra. Let us sum up the rules one more time. Basra is a popular fishing card game played throughout the Middle East. This game is based on the versions played in Lebanon, Egypt, and Turkey. The objective of the game is to score points by collecting cards from the floor. At the end of each hand, points are awarded to each player based on the cards collected. Hands are played with the players alternating dealing until at least one player has accumulated enough points to win the game. Then the player with the most points is declared the winner. In the event of a tie, additional tiebreaker hands are played until one player emerges victorious. Basra is played using a standard deck of 52 cards. The dealer deals 6 cards to each player. During the first deal of each hand, the dealer places 4 cards in the middle of each floor. Notice how that was only for the first deal. For subsequent deals, there would already be, the floor is just placed. Cards are placed onto the floor normally, is what I am trying to say, with players going back and forth. So, players take turns playing 1 card at a time, attempting to collect cards from the floor by matching them with the card played. Cards are matched by either pairing cards or combining multiple cards with the card played. If the player is able to collect cards from the floor, they also collect the card played. If they are unable to collect any cards, the card played remains on the floor. At the end of each hand, any cards remaining on the floor are awarded to the last player to collect cards from the floor. Pairing. A player may collect any card from the floor that is of the same denomination as the card played. A 5 card collects any other 5 cards, or a king card can collect any other king cards. Combining. A player can collect cards from the floor that numerically add up to the value of the card played. In this case, the ace card has a numerical value of 1, while the king, queen, and jack cards do not have numerical values and cannot be included in any combination matches. That means that the king, queen, and jack cannot be played to collect a combination of cards from the floor, and they cannot be collected as part of a combination of cards from the floor. A 5 card collects both a 2 and a 3 card, and an 8 card can collect both a 7 and an ace card. So that is just an example. Multiple combinations can also occur. For example, an 8 card can collect a 5 card and a 3 card, and also a 2 card and a 6 card. The jack is a special card in Basra as it can collect all the cards from the floor. If a jack is played onto an empty floor, it remains in play until one of the players is able to collect it, usually by playing another jack. You get 1 point for each jack you collect, 1 point for each ace you collect, 2 points for collecting the 2 of clubs, and 3 points for collecting the 10 of diamonds. You also get 1 point for additional for each Basra you get. A Basra is when you clear the floor by wiping it without playing a jack. When a player collects the Basra card is placed face up, sticking out of the pile of the player's collected cards. At the end of each hand, players score their points. As previously stated, 1 point for each jack, 1 point for each ace, 2 points for the 2 of clubs, and 3 points for the 10 of diamonds. A key strategy for any player should be to maximize their chances of collecting these cards. Do note that it is also beneficial to get the most cards. The player with the most cards is awarded 3 additional points at the end of each hand. Note that if both players have an equal amount of cards, which is possible because there are 52, and so that's each player can have 26. If both players have an equal amount of cards, no additional points are awarded for that hand. That wraps up how to play Basra. It's an entertaining Middle Eastern fishing game. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for watching.